Patton Sports Videocast is brought to you by Snap Laces. Snap Laces' elite lacing system was designed for world-class athletes. They come in hundreds of color combinations so you can perform well and look great at the same time. Buy a set online today by clicking through the top image on MoPattonSports.com. Welcome to Patton's Videocast, brought to you by Patton Sports. I'm Maurice Patton alongside Kevin Smith. We're going to take you through a few games to get you ready for week 3 of the mid-state high school football season. And week starts a little early, Kevin. We got a Thursday night game. Page at Spring Hill in a big region. What is that? 4A or? Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Yeah, this is an intriguing matchup, Mo. You know, you were talking about two really good quarterbacks, and one is considered a little bit more of a thrower, and one's considered a little bit more of a playmaker there at Spring Hill. So this is going to be this could be a game that goes a couple of hours with a lot of throwing involved, maybe some incompletions. So this could be a very exciting game this week with Page and Spring Hill.
Tylen Oden is a kid that you've seen a little bit. I'm sure he committed to Louisville earlier in the year, decommitted and has thrown it back open. And like you said, he's a little bit of a playmaker. I think he had 200 rushing yards a couple of weeks ago against Summit, and McGavick kind of held him down a little bit. But he's a guy who can make some plays out of the pocket in particular.
Yeah, he's a fun player to watch. So if you get an opportunity on Friday nights, he's a guy that you want to go see because he gives a lot of different dimensions for an offense. So you can't. Sometimes it's hard to pass rush him and send a lot of blitzes because he can break free and run for about 50 yards. But he also has the ability to sit in the pocket and find open receivers. So you kind of have to pick your poison with him and how you're going to attack him defensively.
And as the game goes, that you have to really be aware of that, I guess. The way you rush him, you have to kind of rush but contain at the same time, I guess, right?
But yeah, as a defensive coordinator, you know, you're happy when you win first and second down and you think, well, all right, I'm at 3rd and 8. Maybe I can do some things defensively to put some pressure on the offense. With a quarterback as dynamic as him, it's hard to bring pressure because you never know when he's going to get free, he's going to get loose, and then he can run for that first down. He can scramble for 10, 11 yards, and then you're right back in on first down again, and he's extended a drive on you. So it's very difficult for defensive coordinators in the film room to figure out how they want to attack a player of his caliber.
The Page quarterback, Michael Magochi, may not be quite as dynamic with his feet, but he can really make some plays with his arm.
Yeah, and we've talked about this over the last couple of weeks. Page has been a surprise to us, not only taking it to Fairview a couple of weeks ago, but also hanging in there with Lipscomb Academy. And this guy, they feel like, the Page coaching staff feels like they have good skill players to go along with their great quarterback. So they feel like they can get the ball to their receivers. They can get yards after the catch. They also do feel like they have a great running back that they can turn around and hand the ball off to take a little pressure off that pass game. So, again, this could be a very entertaining up and down ball game, and it could be a very explosive game.
Yeah. Page had won 4 straight before Spring Hill beat them at Page last year, so I imagine the Patriots be looking for a little get back in this one. Another game we want to take a look at right here. We've got Cane Ridge practicing behind us. They are off to a 2-0 start, yet to be scored upon. They go to Hendersonville in a big region game. Yeah,
and Cane Ridge starting off with 2 shutouts on the year. I don't care who that's against. It's very impressive. And not only shutouts, Mo, but they're causing a lot of turnovers. Last week they caused 7 turnovers versus Mount Juliet. And I know at least 2 of those turnovers were interceptions returned for touchdowns. So not only are they shutting teams out, but their defense is scoring for them. So this is going to be defensively for Cane Ridge. This is going to be a different matchup than they've played so far when they're stepping up against a wing T team in Hendersonville. And Mo, they're going to have to do a great job with their eyes, reading their keys and not looking in the backfield.
Hendersonville provides such a challenge. I mean, you see a lot of people around here run wing T, Kevin, but I'm not sure anybody runs it quite like Hendersonville does.
Well, and Hendersonville has speed to go with the wing T, so they got backs that if you take one play off with your keys and you miss, and you don't play your gap or where you're supposed to be with your responsibility, they can take it 80 yards to the house. And so as defensive coordinators, you know, we're always talking about playing, you know, we can play 12 great plays, but then play 13, 80 to the house because we played one bad play. And that's what Hendersonville brings to the table. And it's not just one back. I mean, they got Mike Harris, who ran for a career high last week, 220 yards. They have Terrell Carter. They have all Jack Toe. I mean, they got backs galore that are going to continue to pound at Cane Ridge.
Yeah, Cane Ridge has got a couple of nice backs as well. Jordan Bell and Damari Barton are a couple of guys that are going to show up for them in the run game. And Coach Eddie Woods likes his junior linebacker, Noah Bayless, who had one of those 2 pick sixes last week.
Yeah, he's impressive. Seeing him on film, he does a great job of plugging the gaps, but he also has the ability to drop in coverage. And Mo, you alluded to those running backs. Cane Ridge has a couple of backs themselves that they feel like they can pound you with. So Mo, I look for this game to really be, can Hendersonville control the line of scrimmage with their big offensive line? And can they have long drives where they keep the ball in time of possession to keep Cane Ridge's offense off the field? And then going back to Cane Ridge's defense, can they play fundamentally sound defense for 4 quarters to stop this Hendersonville offense that is very impressive?
Another game we want to take a look at, which will be kind of a polar opposite to this game we were just discussing. Lincoln County comes up to Independence in a region game. Lincoln County beat Lawrence County 40-0 in their opener last week. Independence has thrown points up on everybody. Beat Centennial pretty bad last week. What do you know about this one? This is interesting with Lincoln County being 1-0 and having to come up and play Independence. I hope their poor defensive coordinator's probably stayed up a lot this week. He's probably had a lot of time in the film room trying to figure out how are we going to attack this group. Like we talked about last week, Mo, what's impressive about Independence is not only can they throw the ball with a great quarterback in Andrew Bunch, they have great backs, and Andrew can also run the football. So it's a nightmare for defensive coordinators to try to figure out what are we going to stop and how are we going to stop it. And then if you do stop it, what else can Independence bring out of their bag of tricks because they have so many good playmakers. So Lincoln County, I feel for their defense coordinator trying to figure out what his game plan is for this week. When you use the phrase pick your poison, I don't think it fits too many teams quite the way it does Independence this year because like you said, they've got Andrew Bunch. We've talked about him a lot. We're going to talk about him some more as the year goes. They've got Nate Johnson, the receiver, who is committed to Purdue. They've got Seth Huner. They've got a third receiver, Adam Swayze, who had a nice game against Centennial. They can turn and hand it off to Daniel Wright. And so it's tough to take anything from them, which has got to be really frustrating if you are that defensive coordinator.
Yeah, it really is frustrating because what you're trying to do is you're trying to get in there and say, what can we stop to be successful? And when you have that many options offensively, it's really tough to do that. But let's give Independence's defense some credit as well. They've done a good job. While the headliners are there on offense for Independence, the defense has done a great job as well. And when you have a headlining offense the way Independence does, all we're asking the defense to do is get off the field. Hey, get us some 3 and outs, get us the ball back so that we can score points. And right now they're doing that. And that's what makes Independence a scary football team.
I was kind of looking at their schedule. And October 9th, they've got a matchup with Shelbyville coming up here. Shelbyville is a team that's got a nice quarterback as well with Mason Cunningham, Michael Eddings at running back. I think that might be for the region title when those two tee it up.
Yeah, Independence has got a couple of games that we tried not to get ahead of there in the podcast on Tuesday, but I'm also looking at a Smyrna matchup that I think is going to be really exciting. So there's some more games, obviously, on Independence's schedule that are going to be challenges for them, but so far they've been up to those challenges.
Want to take a look in Division II AA. You've got McCallie and Father Ryan, and kind of polar opposites in the win-loss column right now. McCallie comes in at 0-2, Ryan's 2-0, but when you look a little deeper at the schedule, McCallie's losses are to Parkview out of Georgia, and they lost to Blackman last week 44-42 on a field goal on the final play of the game.
Yeah, you're absolutely right when you're talking about schedules. McCallie has played a really hard schedule to start the season. And really when you talk to coaches, if you have a veteran team, like I believe McCallie is, you're okay with that because you know it's going to help you in the playoffs down the road. It's toughening your team up. But when we go back to this game, we're talking about 2 teams that can run the option. So another game where the defenses are going to have to stay disciplined. They're going to have to read their keys. And if you take one play off, especially against McCallie, if Father Ryan's defense takes one play off and doesn't read their keys correctly, McCallie has explosive players who can take it 60, 70, 80 yards to the house for touchdowns.
McCallie's big-time quarterback, Javon Craig, didn't play last week against Blackman. He's got some sort of an injury. I'm not sure what his availability status is for Friday night against Ryan, but the backup throws for 320 yards and 4 touchdowns. So another pick your poison type situation there.
Yeah, and it shows you the depth of McCallie. And I think this is going to be a great game. And it's a game that both teams can kind of spread you out and both teams can jump into the option game. So this is a game that's going to go back and forth. And I really am going to look for in this ball game is which defense can stay disciplined the longest in the game over a 4-quarter period. But I really like McCallie to kind of show how hard their schedule has been. and come up here to Nashville and have a good game against Father Ryan.
Ryan's 2 wins over Hillwood and Northeast, but they got some confidence for their first-year starter at quarterback, Zach Pfeiffer, a senior.
Yes, sir, and that's for him. If they can get that running game going, it obviously is going to take pressure off him in the pass game. So Father Ryan is going to have to establish the run against McCallie. In which I think they can. You know, McCallie has trouble sometimes defending the run. So for him to continue to get his confidence, they need to establish the run and then hit some early passes. You know, maybe some bubble screens, maybe some good play action passes to get his confidence going, so Father Ryan can have a good offensive performance.
Want to let you know about some of the people who help us put on MoPattonSports.com. MoPatton Sports Videocast is brought to you by Snap Laces. Snap Laces' elite lacing system was designed for world-class athletes. They come in hundreds of color combinations so you can perform well and look great at the same time. Buy a set online today by clicking through the top image on MoPattonSports.com. At National Playmakers Academy, developing NPA athletes comes in threes. NPA develops its student athletes' academic, social, and football-specific skills. Next, NPA develops them for better exposure today, recruitment tomorrow, and college education through scholarships for the rest of their lives. We are proud of the outstanding athletes we have developed. We are more proud of the college graduates we have prepared. Work with National Playmakers Academy for developing gifted athletes into productive citizens. I2, Integrity Insurance. I2 Agency was started with one primary focus in mind, helping people. As a multi-line insurance agency, we do that in a variety of ways with a full portfolio of products. Whether it's life, health, dental, Medicare, annuities, or home and auto insurance, we design solutions that will meet your individual needs. Kevin, another big region matchup over in Murfreesboro has Riverdale and Blackman. They call it the backyard brawl over there. The two of them are kind of separated by Highway 96, basically.
Yeah, I love that name, Mo, for a rivalry, and this is going to be one of those games that could be a smash mouth, get after it type of game. You know, both teams want to run the football out of kind of the gun spread, but they want to have a power running game. Both teams also have great skill on the perimeter, Mo, so this could become an explosive ball game where you're seeing some run, and then some big explosive passes over the top against a defense that has been sucked down due to the run game.
You know, I've really been impressed with what I've heard. I've not seen Blackman yet, but for what I've heard so far out of Miller Armstrong, the quarterback who's taken over for Jawan Jennings over there, played a lot of linebacker last year. You don't see that quarterback-linebacker combination too often. Yeah,
that's a rare find. But this young man is doing a great job of keeping his calm in the huddle, running this offense. And we talked about it with Father Ryan, Mo. When you have a run game the way that Blackman does, and you have an offensive line as good as Blackman does, it takes pressure off of that quarterback. So, you know, Taylor Dowdy going for 25 rushes for 183 yards last week, an impressive performance against McCallie. He takes pressure off that quarterback. So I'm looking for Taylor to get a lot more carries in this football game and to be the workhorse for Blackman again.
On the other side of the ball, Austin Bryant had that type of game against Franklin the other night. I think he had like 22, 23 carries for like $130, and Riverdale kind of squandered it. 4 turnovers, 16 penalties. Obviously, they're going to have to iron some of that out this week against Blackman.
Yeah, Riverdale's been a little bit inconsistent offensively. You know, they didn't do a whole lot against Udowa. Granted, Udowa has a great defense, and then turned around this week and had the turnovers and the penalties they did. They're obviously not going to win against Blackman, who is gaining confidence from their win against McCallie with that type of performance, with turnovers and penalties. So we're looking for consistencies from Riverdale offensively. I think defensively, obviously, they have some very good players. They're very explosive at the skill positions. I think they had a 62-yard receiving touchdown and 64-yard pass.
And 69.
Yeah, so three long touchdown passes, so they showed their explosive ability, but they got to be consistent. On the other side, though, Mo, Blackman has to do a good job on their special teams. They've had a hard time here in their first 2 games making mistakes on special teams, and they got to limit those mistakes, or Riverdale's going to get the ball in great field position.
Exactly. Riverdale is athletic enough to take advantage of some mistakes in the special teams game, so that's something Blackman's got to be aware of. Like you said, in addition to Bryant, they've got a receiver, Jarrett Campbell. Brandon B. has done a nice job for him at quarterback. Kind of waiting for Marquell Odom to kind of step up and play a major role for Riverdale, and this might be the breakout game for him.
Yeah, him and Gentry Bonds also can make plays on the defensive side of the ball. So those guys are both in the defensive secondary. So Blackman's got to be careful that they don't throw up some errant passes, because those guys will pick those passes off, and they have the ability to score once they do cause those turnovers. They also have the ability to be explosive on special teams. So that's where we're talking about Blackman better. They got to shore up their special teams, because Riverdale has the ability and the explosive athletes to take advantage of special teams miscues.
Okay. Speaking of Franklin, they've got Overton coming in a big region game over there. And again, Franklin playing with some confidence following that 34-20 win against Riverdale. Overton beats Marshall County 42-41 for their first win of the season. So you've got a couple of teams that are starting to kind of find some things offensively.
Yeah, and we talked about Franklin on the podcast. They did a great job of coming back from the Centennial game and not losing their confidence as a young team and taking advantage of the opportunities that were given to them. So again, a lot of teams don't always take advantage of the turnovers that have been presented, and Franklin did. And they're a hard-nosed football team, Mo. They like their young players. They think that they got some guys that are growing up, and then they also like their backfield. I mean, they got a couple of kids who are hard-nosed, good high school football players. So they feel like they have an opportunity to run the football and control the clock on offense.
Lanham Craddock is a guy that's going to get the ball a lot for Franklin. Like you said, speaking of hard-nosed offensive ball players, I think he had 21 carries for 137 yards, a couple of touchdowns. So they like to pound the rock with him. Overton's got a kid in the backfield, Kimley North. Feels like he's been there forever. I think he's finally a senior this time. So he and the aptly named Derek Payne are their two running backs. You got to love that name for a football player.
You know, in the history of Overton, Mo, they've always seemed to have great backs, and they always seem to run the football well, and they usually seem to have a great defense that runs around and is very active and physical. So I don't see anything different from this team. They played a great Marshall County team last week that is very good offensively. That 41 points, let's not look too much into that as the season progresses. But Overton, I see them having a strong run game like they always do, with a couple of good backs. And then I think the defense is going to come around here and be a typical Overton defense.
Handful of other games we want to take a look at. One in Division 2A. Donaldson Christian comes to Franklin Road Academy, your old stomping grounds.
Yeah, this has become kind of an intense rivalry in Division 2 Single A. And it's one that is usually early in the season and kind of lets you know where you are at that point in the season. And for both teams, Mo, they both have dynamic skill players that can score. This game could be very interesting. For me, it comes down to who can run the football, who can establish the line of scrimmage, and with both of them with small rosters, who can stay healthy and not cramp during this football game to keep them in the game, to keep those dynamic skill players in the game. I think that's going to be a huge key in this football. Yeah,
we were talking off air. It's supposed to be 90-ish at kickoff Friday night, so cramps may be more of a factor than they've been in the first 2 weeks of the season, maybe even into the preseason. I think it's sounding like it's going to be warmer this weekend than it's been at any point maybe since they got started.
Yeah, when we're talking about players like at DCA like Shannon Fain, the running back, number one, fantastic football player. Not only is he the running back, and they're going to give him a lot of carries, but he's got to turn around and play defense. And we're talking the same thing with a Spence Jones from Franklin Road Academy and a Sam Harvin. Those guys, not only are they the bell cows on offense, but they got to turn around and play every snap on defense. And so the question becomes, who can avoid the cramps so that in the fourth quarter when they need a play, they're in there to make those plays. And Mo, I kind of see this game being a early defensive struggle, and then maybe in the second half seeing a little bit of an offensive explosion as the defenses wear down and those skill players have more room to run.
And as a coach, you really have to be cognizant of that situation, do you not, in terms of managing your personnel when you've got a lot of guys going both ways like that?
Yeah, it's interesting you said that, Mo, because you get in a lot of coaches' meetings and you have the defensive staff and the offensive staff, and you're battling back and forth saying, all right, well, you need to sub him over there, and no, you need to sub him over here. So it's one of those things where, you know what, at the end of the day, it's what the head coach says. So when the head coach says we're going to take him out and which side he's going to come out on, that's usually what happens.
Who wins that that argument?
It's always the head coach, and usually if the head coach is an offensive guy, it's the offensive side. If it's a defensive head coach, it's the defensive side. So it's actually a good time in the meeting rooms. Yeah, there's a little bit of push and a tuggle there for players, but at the end of the day, both sides know that they need to keep that player healthy. They need to keep that player on the field and make sure that player, has enough fluids during the game that he can stay in there and play when it matters in the fourth quarter, Mo, so that they can either stop them on defense or score on offense.
Another good one in Division II AA, we've got Baylor coming to Ensworth.
Yeah, this is another intriguing matchup, and this is kind of some history here where they've played each other a couple times in the state championship games, and Ensworth has come out on top. Baylor does a really good job defensively with their 3-3 stack. They're pretty sound with it. They know where they want to go. They've done it for a long time. On the flip side of that, though, Mo, Ensworth does a good job in their running game, and sometimes Ensworth does a good job with their personnel of attacking a 3-3 stack. And so it's somewhat of a tough matchup for Baylor in the fact that Ensworth is so physical in their run game. So that's something to keep an eye on in this matchup Friday night.
And I think that Ensworth has done a really good job of bringing the quarterback, Coleman Goodwin, along with Darius Moorhead and with Nicky Clifton in the run game, kind of allowing Coleman to get some snaps under his belt and that kind of thing. They may be about ready to turn him loose.
Yeah, and going back to that run game, it's obviously giving confidence to the quarterback, but it's also giving confidence to this young defense. They lost a lot of guys, Ensworth did, on the defensive side of the ball, and they're doing a good job last week of controlling the time of possession, limiting the possessions of the other team. And if they can do that against Baylor, that's going to help that defense's confidence as well, where they can get off the field and they don't have to stop Baylor as many times as, Baylor wants to be on the field, obviously, as much as they can. So Ensworth wants to get off the field quickly on defense, control the clock on offense, and limit those possessions.
I want to remind you again of some of the folks that help bring you Mo Patton Sports. John Mayer Builders proudly sponsors Mo Patton Sports videocast. With over 1,500 homes built in Middle Tennessee, John Mayer Builders knows the importance of families and communities. They have numerous business awards to their credit, proving that John Mayer Builders is built to win. Like them on Facebook. John Mayer Builders, our reputation is building. At National Playmakers Academy, developing NPA athletes comes in threes. NPA develops its student athletes' academic, social, and football-specific skills. Next, NPA develops them for better exposure today, recruitment tomorrow, and college education through scholarships for the rest of their lives. We are proud of the outstanding athletes we have developed. We are more proud of the college graduates we have prepared. Work with National Playmakers Academy for developing gifted athletes into productive citizens. The law practice of Allen D. Hall, PLC is grounded in providing exceptional legal services with the utmost trust and integrity. Legal services Allen provides include employment law, confidential investigations, general business law, risk management, and regulatory policy interpretation and drafting. Ultimately, if you need consulting solutions, Allen D. Hall needs to be your choice. Kevin, last week on our picks, we both wound up at 4-2, but we took different routes. We picked the CPA Knoxville Catholic game, final score CPA 38, Catholic 10, and
yeah, I was completely off on that one. But hey, like we said in the podcast, Mo, CPA did an excellent job. In my opinion, CPA outcoached Catholic, and on top of that, their kids out-executed Catholic's kids. So great job from CPA. Team speed, we knew they had some good players. We didn't quite know how fast they were, and they showed that. So CPA has a great chance again to be back in the state championship game in 3A.
We also took a shot at the Brentwood Academy Louisville Trinity game, and we both came up empty on that one.
Yeah, just a little disappointing there, Mo, just in the fact that we thought BA would show up a little bit with a better showing than they did. And we're looking again for BA to kind of establish that run game and be physical with other teams with those linemen that they do have. With that being said, Trinity is a fantastic team. They got great players. We're glad they're out of the mid-state right now, and BA is going to be just fine, and BA is going to start rolling again here.
I think it's a great game for Brentwood Academy, win or lose. Even though it left them with the loss, I think it was a good matchup for them, and I think they can take some things out of it. Another game we picked was Oakland at Hillsboro.
Yeah, I loved Oakland here, Mo, and early on it looked like your pick was going to be pretty solid there. But Oakland, again, showed us something that we talked about on the podcast Tuesday. They showed us that they can get down by 2 scores and still have the mental toughness to hang in there and come back in a game versus a very athletic and a very tough Hillsboro team. So that's going to serve Oakland well through the rest of the season, that they have that kind of mental toughness.
And I think it's going to serve Hillsboro well to have played that game, even though I picked them to win it. Final score, Oakland 36, Hillsboro 28. Tough loss for the Burros at home, but again, I think it will serve them well down the line. Another one we had was MBA and Pearl Cone over at West End.
Yeah, and NBA was very impressive. Pearl Cone's schedule has given them, they haven't had any breaks there with starting off with who they have, but NBA going to Alabama, playing a physical matchup, coming back and winning this football game against a very good Pearl Cone team shows a lot about the defending Division II AA state champions, that they're going to be in the hunt again, that they can play physical football and they can control the clock.
Final score, NBA 34, Pearl Cone 25. I had the big red in that one, but again, sounds like it was a really entertaining ball game. We also had Independence and Centennial. Final was Independence 49, Centennial 6. We both got that one right. Feels good.
Yeah. And Independence is showing they're as good as advertised. So, again, it's a team that if you get an opportunity on Friday night, go out and support those guys and watch them. They're fun to watch. Centennial's not out of the hunt. We still think they're a contender in 5A to make a deep playoff run. They got a great defense. They just got to figure out how to shore up that offense a little bit and get a little bit more of a consistent running game with some timely passes.
And I don't think that's going to be the last defense to struggle against Independence this year. The last game that we took a shot at was BGA going over to Friendship Christian. We both had BGA winning that one.
Yeah, a great win for BGA. Again, shows early in the year in Division II Single A. This could be a rematch down the line. They both think they have the pieces to win a state championship, and BGA made more plays in the end than Friendship did, and Friendship has got to get rid of the turnovers. You just can't win games when you turn the football over.
35-19 the final in that one. I don't think we said it was Brentwood Academy losing to Trinity 31-13. So that's the way our picks went. We both wound up 4-2 on those. Let's take a look at what we got this week. Page at Spring Hill, who do you like?
I like Page. Page has showed me a little bit here the first 2 weeks with a monster win over Fairview, and then a close loss. And I like the head coach going for 2. When he's taking chances like that, I like that aggressive behavior. So I'm going to go with Page in this football game with a very explosive game.
I like Page in this one as well. And like you said, that kind of mindset, I think, even if you don't win it, even if you don't get that 2-point conversion, I think it gives the kids a lot of confidence, and it shows that you've got confidence in them. It's the type of thing that's going to pay off down the line, I think. We've got, well, let's say this one for last. We've got Lincoln County at Independence.
Yeah, it's hard to pick against Independence, Mo. I mean, they're obviously showing how explosive they are. So this is going to be a tough one for Lincoln County. This could get away from them early. This could be another kind of 35-point output in the first half. You got to go with Independence here.
I think you're right. I think Independence has an offense that can overwhelm you if you're not careful. One, you've got to be able to hold them down when you're out there on defense, and you've got to be able to score when you've got the ball, and that's a lot of pressure on a team on the road. I like Independence in this one. McCallie at Ryan.
I'm gonna have to go with McCallie. I feel like they're gonna come up here and get their first win on the season. They've played a tough schedule. It's gonna serve them well here in Nashville on Friday night. And look for that one to be a little bit of an explosive game too, Mo. I think they're gonna put up some good points, maybe in the 30s. Look for McCallie to get on the winning track.
Yeah, I think McCallie's going to put too much offense on the field for Ryan to be able to keep up. I like McCallie in that one as well, especially if Javon Craig is able to play in it. But like we said, we saw what the backup did last week over at Blackman, so I think it's a tough matchup for Ryan. Riverdale at Blackman in the backyard brawl.
Yeah, this is kind of an interesting game, Mo, to pick. We've got the inconsistent play of Riverdale, but they've got the players to beat anybody. And then we've got Blackman, who has had a kind of an up and down. They've played some tough teams, but I feel like they've gained enough confidence, Mo, to go into this football game, and I like Blackman to win. I like Blackman's running game. I like their offensive line, and I think they can do just enough defensively to slow down Riverdale to win this football game.
I like Blackman just for the standpoint that I'm not sure that Riverdale is able to get enough consistent play on both sides of the ball to push Blackman when all is said and done. So I like Blackman at home. Overton at Franklin.
This is another tough one to pick, Mo, because of what Franklin did last week of hanging in there versus a team that we thought they had no business beating. And then an Overton team who has shown they can go beat a really good Marshall County team that has an explosive offense. I'm going to have to go with Franklin, and the reason being is they run a little bit of not a wing tee, not a wing bone offense, but they do enough double wing type stuff that I feel like they're gonna put a lot of pressure on Overton's defense to be disciplined and read their keys. I like Franklin to kind of mess with them offensively and win this football game.
I think Overton has some big play capability that Franklin may not necessarily have, but I think Franklin's got the discipline on offense that they can walk the ball down, take some time off the clock, and really frustrate both the defense that's out on the field and the offense that wants to get on the field. I like Franklin in this one. It may be a close one. Finally, we've got these Cane Ridge Ravens going up to Hendersonville in a big game.
Yeah, Cane Ridge obviously done a great job on defense, 2 shutouts in a row to start this football season. They also have some playmakers on offense. I just think Hendersonville has too much offensively on top of their defense that hasn't been too shabby either, Mo, holding teams to 14 points per game. Look for Hendersonville to control the clock, the line of scrimmage, and win this football game and kind of take over in the second half, Mo, with their running backs.
I think Hendersonville, they just run a bunch of folks at you. They have 8, 9, 10 ball carriers a game, and they can wear you down between the people they put on the field and the offense that they run. They can make it really tough. I like Hendersonville at home in this one.
And Mo, you know what's interesting with Hendersonville? We've talked about Independence, Centennial, Hillsboro, and 5A. Hendersonville is also a contender in this 5A, in this league, and they can easily be in the state championship game, and they've proven that in past years here where they've gone to state championship 2 years in a row. They have another team that can get there.
And the trouble with all that is all of those guys will be playing West. So only one out of that group that you just mentioned, Hillsboro, Hendersonville, Centennial, Independence, only one of them is going to get to Cookeville. So it's going to be interesting to watch the way 5A plays out this year. John Mayer Builders proudly sponsors Mo Patton Sports Videocast. With over 1,500 homes built in Middle Tennessee, John Mayer Builders knows the importance of families and communities. They have numerous business awards to their credit, proving that John Mayer Builders is built to win. Like them on Facebook. John Mayer Builders, our reputation is building. Hey, thanks for joining us here on another edition of Mo Patton Sports Videocast. We'll see you at the ball game.